Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy holy days, and ever how you're celebrating. I confer my wholehearted blessing to you, and I pray that this message will lift you up, be a gift, and tickle you in delight, a childlike delight in some way. And I was thinking about in my preparation, like the difference between like what our beliefs about a Santa Claus and God, and how we've made God Santa Claus-ish. You know, if we're really good, we'll get. And if we're not on the naughty list, then we won't get. So let me share some of these quotes and see how they resonate with you and what the message may be here for us. Alas, how dreary would be the world if there was no Santa Claus. Alas, how dreary would be the world if there was no God, no relationship with God, no relationship with higher power. There would be no childlike faith, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable these challenges, this existence. From Francis Church. You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. And what if God says, Santa Claus says, of course you'll cry, of course you'll pout. And I'm telling you why. We're human and divine. Both are true. Laura Ingalls Wilder said, whenever anyone was unselfish, that was Santa Claus. Martha says, whenever anyone was unselfish, that's our Christ nature. We're more into our Christ nature. I'm more into my Christed nature when I'm not selfish. In Christmas time, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day is a time when more people, maybe even everybody to some degree, is less selfish. We're more unselfish. On that night, on that morning, Santa Claus is everywhere. Santa Claus is everybody all together. One power and one presence. Long enough for us stop to be selfish. We actually want other people to be happy. And we're happy in wanting that happiness. And in the morning, we saw what that unselfishness had done. So to cherish peace and goodwill, to be plenteous in mercy, is to have the real spirit of Christmas, the real spirit of Jesus. Calvin Coolidge. Pat Boone says the greatest thing is not to be Santa Claus or not to believe in Santa Claus. It is to be Santa Claus. How are you being Santa Claus? What can you do to be more Christed-like? So for me, growing up, Christmas time was always the most exciting, fantastic time of the year. We would stay up late, not want to go to bed and get up early. And even though I knew from an early age, it's my mom's doings. And even I could hear her rapping sometimes. And I knew though that she was in collusion with Santa Claus. Even though it was my parents doing it, and in my case, my mother, that Santa Claus was still in the mix somehow. God is still in the mix. God is the mix. from the Polar Express, one of our favorite movies for Helen and me to watch during this season, says, seeing is believing. But sometimes the most real things in the world are the things we cannot see. Charles Fillmore said it as faith. Faith in things unseen may be the greatest things of all. The unseen, the mystery of it. An unknown quote that struck me in my preparation for this says, may you never be too grown up to search the skies on Christmas Eve. May we never be so grown up that we don't search the skies for something greater than us, something more benevolent, something more unconditional, and never to deny a Christmas, a Christmas, a Christ consciousness. Not to deny that ourselves, not to deny that another. Doable, at least to go in that direction. What do you believe? What are you willing to believe? An ounce of goodness every day can soothe the heart in many ways. Let's not wait until Christmas to live out our nature, our Christed nature. And I'm confident you've heard it before. What if we made every day like Christmas Day? What would that be like to live in that anticipation, that unselfishness, that delight, applying our principles, the one power, the one presence. Santa Claus is anyone who loves another and seeks to make them happy. Christ's nature is all of us, anyone who loves another and seeks to be happy and to make others happy. Who gives ourselves by thought and word and deed and every gift that we bestow. Sound like our principles? Through our actions, through our living this, through our meditation, our contemplations, our reflections, our applications of the one power and the one presence, I am that I am, then I bestow this, I live this, I express this. I share joy to those who are sad. I can hold space with those in sadness, whose hand is never closed when it comes to a call for service and of serving, whose arms are always outstretched, whose sympathy is quick, and in a genuine time of challenge or trouble, and who recognizes in every person, every fellow, every sister and brother that we meet on this common road of life, the Christ nature of them. And very, very difficult, even for me, impossible to see at times. And nevertheless, I'll look and I'll believe it's there, even if I can't see it, if I cannot realize it yet. If our principles are true, then there is a Christ nature in all. So big, deep breath. So what does Christmas mean for you? What does Christmas time mean for you? How will you be transformed? To say there is no Santa Claus is an erroneous statement. To say there is no God, to say there is no possibility for our Christedness is an erroneous statement. This passes through our human form, and more than just in symbolism and tradition, but in the depths of our very breath. And if, to whatever degree, all children, adults can understand this, and the possibility, the actual potential of peace on earth and goodwill for all, we have lived it out. At least we can go in that direction. Come, come, come. Meet me there. Meet me there. So I was thinking about the fun. I've been doing some things coming up to Christmas, different types of prayers, different reading that I'm doing. Many of you may have followed the Advent booklet and those stories there and the themes of the week, whatever it is that you've done. I got inspired in preparing this talk to think about starting the 25 days of Christmas now. So we had the 25 days coming up to Christmas, and now let's start a new 25 days of Christmas. So we're going to take this into the new year. And just to keep this alive and to say that that was a beginning. So it took me 25 days to kind of jumpstart myself, and that I'm going to keep this alive and some of the things I'm going to do. So I'll share some of the things I've got on a list that I've chosen, that I'm intentional about, and that I'll be practicing. And if you want to join me, I'd love to hear from you about this, anything that you're willing to do in the 25 days after Christmas, which will get us well into a new year, well into some different intentions for ourselves, and certainly into some deeper practicing of living out our Christed nature and deepening and ever expanding our relationship with God, Creator. So number one is to be thankful. To be thankful even in difficult times. Out of suffering, the strongest souls have emerged. And the most giant leaders, Jesus, others, were seared with scars. Number two, to practice and live out kindness as a quality of the strong. So kindness from a place of power, kindness from a place of strength. Tenderness and kindness, not from a sign of weakness or despair, but a manifestation of strength, of power, of Christed nature. Extending kindness from my Christ nature. Day three, or number three, there's no such thing as the absolute truth. So to reel myself in when I say I know the truth or I found the truth versus I have found a truth or I have found what works for me. And to absolutely know that I am ignorant of absolute truth. And then in my humility, I'm humbled before my ignorance, which herein lies my honor, my reward, and my reality of what a truth is for me that I cannot try to put off onto other people in the name of God. So everybody gets their path, and I'm over here in a full-time job living mine. Number four, it's the small people who are trying to belittle and humiliate other people. So I cannot do that, humiliate and belittle other people and live in my Christ nature. So some of my new plans, new actions, new intentions, new ideas, including stopping that, doing less of it. Number 5, to harm others. No, the harm that others do to us, the harm that others do to you, to me, is easier to forget than the harm that we do to others. Now, that's my reality. So if the other person injures me, I may forget the injury. But if I injure another person, I'll always remember. So I'm going to practice doing less injury. I'm going to catch myself and be more intentional and more mindful out of my choice to live Christmas, Christ nature, Christ consciousness, past Christmas into the new year by doing less injury to others. Number 6, we might forget those who made us laugh. We will never forget those who were by our side at our darkest hours. So I'm committing to not steer away or cut off, or to be available when people have pain and sorrow and challenges, that I have a Christed heart about that, and that my presence and love for them can be there in their pain, in their tears, in their human suffering. So I'm not going to shut down to that or call it negative or something else, because I can't do that and live out of my Christed nature. So I'm going to include tears and sorrow and sadness in the human experience, and be more available to sit with people and to extend myself to them when they're in that experience. And the sweetness of friendship, to be present to the extraordinary nature of friendships, the sweetness of a friendship, what they hold with us, the experiences we've had, a little pleasure, maybe a nickname. So more attention to the friends that I have, the friendships that I have, and the sweetness of those friendships. So it likely will include some letter writing, or some cards, or some calls, or some texts to thank them, to remind them, and to praise and uplift the friendships that I have. And I know for sure you know what I mean by that. To live love as life, which I've spoken about earlier and just a week or so ago, and life as love. Love is life, and life is love. So when we love, we will not say God is in my heart, but rather I am in the heart of God. My heart is the heart of God. So if my heart is the heart of God, and I'm aware of it, proclaiming that, then I'm going to make different choices, and I'm going to live differently from that place. To put love in all the work that I do. Work is love made visible. So if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste or despair, then it's better not to do that work, but to find something that, if I'm going to bake bread, I'm going to bake bread that was made out of delight, not out of indifference or despair or duty or dread or whatever the case may be. So whatever I'm doing, WORK wise, love first, work second. So love is the main ingredient in whatever work I'm putting forth. Next, to understand the heart and the mind of the person, not to assume any ill intent on their part, and to be aware of what they're aspiring to be. To understand the heart and mind of a person, look not at what they have already done, not what they have achieved, but what they're aspiring to be, and to uplift that. And as I was watching in my time of preparation for Christmas and these holy days, I watched a series called The Chosen. Many of you may have seen it. I also watched a series called The Messiah, and it was very informative to me. It was also very healing, and it felt like it was some cheering me on in my choices to be in my own Christ nature. So maybe they're for you too, or maybe you've already seen them. And if so, when you want to share something, I'm open to that. So how to look at what somebody aspires to be versus how they've lived. And I certainly saw that in Jesus, in his choosing those disciples. And it was clear that they were not the perfect people, that they had their issues, they had their fallibles, and they had their humanness. And they were chosen out of what Jesus saw in them, that they aspired to be. So that's what is driving this message for me today. For me to live what I aspire to be, and to see and be aware of what others aspire to be, and to uplift that whenever possible. So I'm going to put the other of this list in our recording, in our newsletter, the emails that go out weekly. So you can read them and enjoy them and practice them if you want to. This is a taste of it. Absolutely don't try to do it Martha's way, but to do it your way. And the invitation and the encouragement is to keep Christmas alive, to keep the Christ nature alive and cared for and lived out, not as a notion, not as a day, not as a season, not as a duty, but as a infinite potentiality of what our principles teach and invite us to look at, that in us, in every one of us, in our own hearts, is the Christ nature. And the days leading up to Christmas is the coming of that. And if we are coming that today, if we're meeting that today, arriving there today, demonstrating that today, Christmas, Merry, Merry Christmas. And then the days after this are our days to really let it shine, to let our soul shine as our divine nature, our Christ nature, our Christ itself, and to do so in meaningful, radical, intentional ways, and to find the pure delight in being truer to ourselves and that nature. Namaste to you. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holy days to you. And to the happiest, healthiest, most prosperous, blessed, joyous, grounded, perfectly God-centered new year that you've ever experienced up until now and beyond. MarthaCreek.com to get in touch with me if I can serve you in any way. All blessings. MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.